Welcome once again to How to Relate to Anyone. Here is Dr. Orv Owens.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've got a story to tell you today that it's going to help you a lot, I believe, because it's the negative side of use of authority. We call it authority by ultimatum, where it's either shape up or ship out. The problem is half the people ship out, and that means turnover in personnel, and that means retraining and starting all over again, and the cost factor that goes with that goes up and up. So what we want to do, we want to look at how ultimatum or authority by ultimatum is used, how to avoid it. So this is one of those, here's what not to do type things. And hopefully we can get that message across in a way that it makes sense to you. Ultimatum is used to against subordinates to supposedly demand some action. You know, the pressure applied is to get people to produce, get them to turn out more sales, kick out more product. And it's usually used with a loud voice, maybe some profanity, or often with some profanity. And I don't know why people feel profanity motivates people, because it never has. It always just turns people off, and it causes people to resent. And resentment in an employee can literally cause a higher level of turnover in personnel and absenteeism and all the negatives that happen in a corporate structure. This is caused by a lack of leadership and abuse of authority rather than using authority. The abuse of authority is pretty widespread in the corporate world these days, and in government, in some areas of government, really abused. And as a result, the productivity is at an all-time low, high level of turnover personnel, and all that is high cost factor and a lack of profitability. In sales, the same philosophy is used in closing sales. You know, if you had a brain in your head, you'd understand the value of what I'm showing you. Your questions are really pretty stupid questions. Think through this before you ask a question, would you please? You know, that type of sales situation. The old hard sell, foot in the door salesperson thing just doesn't work anymore. People are too knowledgeable and sophisticated to allow a salesperson to coerce them into or embarrass them into buying their product or service. And what it really does, it turns them off, and when it turns them off, it also creates a lack of repeat and referral business. In fact, negative referrals come from somebody who's been burned or scorned by a salesperson with a company. Don't ever do business with that company, because what I found with that company, they blah, 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 blah. And it's all negative stuff, and it has no relevance, no value, no opportunity to open doors that are closed, create repeat business, as I mentioned. Referral business is dead. Coercive selling is when you have to admit that you're stupid and you can't recognize value when you see it, but you're still not going to buy. And you know, when you walk away from a sales situation and you feel that you've been put down and taken shots at and so on, whether you buy or don't buy, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth, and you think twice before you ever go back to that company again. And everybody everybody viewing this video has had times when people have done this to them, and you never forget it. And it's always tied into the company. Don't ever do any business with that company because they do, and really, I don't know that they do all of the negative, but that salesperson did on that given time, and then we just believe that everybody at that company operates on the same philosophy, which is not always true. And so a company is hurt by one person who uses coercive techniques to sell, uses coercive techniques to manage, and the reputation spreads really rapidly in a negative way. And what you have to be very careful with is you literally cut off clientele, cut off good employees. No, don't go to work for that company. They beat up on you every day, chew you up, spit you out. If you answer questions negatively, the salesperson should be able to adjust their whole presentation to what's bothering you. Because a negative response to anything in presentation is an indicator of a fear motivation. And if you can understand the fear and lift people above that fear, the negativity goes away. But you see, if you don't understand that concept, then you're going to try covering the negativity, the negative response by a client with stronger presentation. And by stronger, I mean more demanding, more coercive. A coercive act would be, you know, I've had a lot of idiots in my life that haven't been able to see the value of this. It's only the smart people who really know how valuable this product is. And so I've just now called you an idiot. And you're going to resent that, and probably that's going to cause some psychological blocks, defense mechanisms, maybe even push you out. Maybe you'll even kick me out. Just say, get out of here. I don't need to hear this story. I don't know if you ever had people that you just literally felt like showing them to the door. But those kind of people build a whole bad reputation for a whole company and a whole line of products, which is sad. Because in many cases, the products are good, the company is good, bad salesperson. This destroys working relationships with corporate leaders on a corporate management employee level, creates high level turnover in personnel and diminishes productivity and creates a low level of subordination. Subordination is so important. That's where people stretch. They go the extra mile. They do what has to be done to get productivity up, to accomplish a goal, to make things happen. Creativity goes out the window. And when creativity goes out the window, so does productivity, because productivity is directly connected to how creative each of your people are on your staff. In leadership, if you can nurture creativity, you will increase productivity and profitability. And all that's good. Well, this is all destroyed with a negative approach to management, negative approach to pushing people rather than leading people. Opening doors that they can see possibilities, opening doors that say, wow, I never saw that before, but I'd like to try doing that. I'd like to be more effective in that area of my life. That gives a sense of well-being. It gets a sense of personal growth and personal development, and it's gone. That is gone when coercive technique is used to promote and manage people. Now, the primary cause of all of this is poor or no management training. I have been hired by companies that just had such a high level of turnover in personnel and poor morale. And I mentioned this in some earlier lessons about a company in Florida that was the case. 80% turnover in personnel annually, 20% productivity. They were ready to close the doors. And had to turn that around or shut the doors because they were losing money. It was a black hole. And this was a large corporation with many different plants in different parts of the East Coast. And so they didn't mind closing the doors, but they had made a big investment in equipment and big investment in hiring all the people and so on. Well, the general manager put all of his supervisory and above people through our management course called Direction in Management, how to lead people into a higher level of productivity, and moved them basically with an understanding now and good training from being a coercive boss and pushing people around. I mean, this was a mill, a plywood mill, and the people were promoted to leaders of position just by virtue of hanging around for a while. They've been on staff longer than anybody else. Zero training in how to deal with people problems, how to deal with employees, how to deal with individuals on your staff that need special attention, special handling. We all have hang-ups, we all have problems, we all have areas that irritate us. And if you can understand my irritants and my concerns and relate to me based upon my concerns and lift me above those concerns, I'm going to be very loyal to you, and I'm going to strive to please you. I'm going to try my best to make you proud of me. And when I'm striving to make you proud of me, what I'm really doing is becoming more productive, more creative, and all that's good things. But poor management training can literally be the cause of all this happening. Our management training was management by leadership. How do you become a leader? How do you cause people to want to do what you want them to do? How do you cause people to stretch to meet your expectations? That's true leadership. And in the case I'm speaking of, that company went from very low productivity to turning the whole thing around and became one of the leaders in their corporation in productivity and profitability. And this all happened in 1 year. It was, as I mentioned before, it was a great thing for me because then they had me go to each one of the other plants and teach my management course. So it became quite a profitable series of seminars for my company as a result of the great results they had with a company that was failing. And so people are people, and if you can lift them above their fears, all of a sudden they become productive. They become desirous of producing more, desirous of fitting in, desirous of being creative and productive, and find great pleasure. And then the rewards of that was all of these supervisors and managers and so on got bonuses, and I mean the morale of that sawmill or that plywood company changed totally. And it was a fun thing to watch happen. In sales, the same philosophy is used for closing sales. It's called coercive selling. And it's a matter of, I create a scenario of you have to be stupid, you have to not love your family, you have to not salute the flag, and you hate God, and you hate the President of the United States, and you hate. All those things have to be in place in order to to be what you're being and become the kind of person you are. The idea is to get the sales made by embarrassing people, making them feel lower than. The sad part about that is the salesperson beats up on himself or herself every time they walk out the door without a sale. Lost another one. There we go, down the tube further. And those are the salespeople I find that have been jumping from job to job, company to company. They have a lot of experience, but it's all bad experience. One of the things I teach in my interviewing seminars, how to avoid hiring people who have bad experience, because they're going to bring the bad experience right into your organization, and you're going to have your hands full to turn them around. It's very difficult. So to be able to understand what's causing this person to fail, what's causing this person to be negative, this salesperson who can't seem to close sales, what is it? Now, this has caused a bad name for the sales field because, I don't know if you are old enough to remember Dagwood Bumpstead, but there was always the salesman with the foot in the door and selling widgets and whatever. And it was a bad impression of door-to-door salespeople, which was a very big profession in those days. Most sales were done door-to-door. And that's vacuum cleaners and widgets and whatever. Well, Dagwood had one of those coming at least once a week in one of the strips. And it was funny stuff, but it caused our world to look down on. It was one of the causes of our world looking down on salespeople. Never want to be a salesman, that they have a lousy reputation. Well, the lousy reputation is based on funny paper strip with Dagwood. But, anything that's humorous, anything that's funny, there's a bit of reality to it. And they used a whole lot of actual sales stories to write that comic strip. So in recent years, door-to-door sales has really diminished, and with internet and so on, it's a little different than it has been in years past. But it still exists, and if you go to buy a refrigerator, or you go to buy a piece of furniture, or you go to buy a car, in many cases you're going to bump into a salesperson who still uses authority by ultimatum, and you'll recognize it. You'll recognize it as a pushy, coercive, name-calling type sales approach. And it's normally caused by companies not training their salespeople well, first of all. Secondly, it's caused by a poor training of presentation skills. And the third thing is hiring salespeople who really shouldn't be in sales. This abuse of sales authority has created a bad name for a great profession. I love selling. I enjoy selling. I work with real estate people and insurance salespeople and stockbrokers, and actually go out on sales presentations with them as a consultant. Recently worked with a plumbing company that's selling their service, and worked with their sales staff selling plumbing. I don't care what the product is. Building a trust relationship is what salesmanship is really all about. And you cannot build a trust relationship with negative approach, with put downs, criticisms, coercive techniques, and causing people to feel like they are obligated to buy from you. guarantee you, you will fail. You will not succeed in sales if that's your approach. You'll have to find a new job regularly. So what I challenge you with then is, if you're a sales trainer, make sure you create such a positive sales presentation that it's edifying, and when your salespeople leave a client's office or home, or whatever the situation is, or a person leaves your store, they feel good about your business because of the way the salesperson has handled that relationship. You know, you have authority. In sales, you have authority. When people walk in the door, you're the salesperson, you have authority. You can either create a positive environment or a negative environment. You can send them out the door feeling good, you can send them out the door feeling bad. And the interesting part is, if they're walking out the door feeling good, you're going to have referral business, and that's a good thing. So, if you personally have used authority by ultimatum, or you're teaching your salespeople to use authority by ultimatum, here's my professional advice, and I've given it to you before on other items. You can say it probably with me, and that is, stop it. Just stop it. Stop pushing and start leading. Stop coercing, start answering questions with positive answers that lift people above their fears. And your sales will increase. Your employees will be more dedicated and stretched to meet your expectations, and that's high level of productivity. Turn it around, and you'll see the rewards of leading people rather than trying to push.